This week on Erotic Awakening, mentoring, kinky fiction, and Bukkake. Bukkake?
Bukkake.
This week on Erotic Awakening, mentoring, kinky fiction, and Bukkake.
Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, we recommend you stop listening right now.
We want to thank all of our patron supporters.
Indeed. Head over to patreon.com/erotic awakening today and get your bonus content and support the show.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Dan.
So not too long ago, we said we're going to talk about this, and this. And today we're going to talk about one of those thises.
We are. So we talked about all the others and we left this one for last so that it would be its own show.
Indeed. And today we are talking about the idea of mentoring, and we mean mentoring in the BDSM context, mentoring in the polyamory context, mentoring in the power exchange context.
Mm-hmm.
Each one will have a similar base, but have some differences.
Indeed. So we do talk about mentoring every now and then in our classes. And I believe we talk about it at least in Hearts and Collars, maybe.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm pretty sure we do, because we have a pretty strict is not the right word, but we do have a soapbox.
We have a specific viewpoint.
A specific viewpoint. Thank you, sir. So a specific viewpoint when it comes to mentoring, because what we have found over the years in the kink world is that mentoring can mean a couple of different things to people, and one of them actually confuses me.
Which one confuses you?
The ones that involve sex.
Oh, okay.
So those confuse me when people say, oh, I'm being mentored by blah, blah, blah. The sex is really good, or the play is really good. And I'm like, oh, that's not mentoring in my world.
You're right. So, so to expand upon what you're talking about, we do see that on occasion where people will find, specifically, it's a lot of times, it's a male dom will see a new female submissive come into the scene and says, well, there's a lot of bad people out there. You should let me be your mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And what they really want to do is simply play with the person in an exclusive way without taking the responsibility of collaring them or doing a dom sub sort of situation.
Yeah, it's like they're more training them or something to be their submissive. That's not mentoring.
Yeah. And so for us, again, language is a funny thing. We like to use very specific language in this area where for us, we think about mentoring as something different.
We do. So the way that we usually describe mentoring, the way Dan and I look at it, the way we usually describe mentoring is we recommend peer mentoring, right? Peer to peer. And what that means is the visual that we usually give is if you are a stewardess, you don't go to a pilot to figure out how to be a stewardess. If you're a pilot, you don't go to a stewardess to figure out how to pilot the plane, right? So if I am a submissive, I need to go to another submissive that has been in this lifestyle for a while. Maybe someone to ask questions of, right? Someone that's compatible. Maybe this is the type of submissive that I would like to emulate, right? I like how they fulfill their role, not just online, but in their household, right? So I've even gone, beyond just finding someone online, and sometimes that's all we have. So, go with that if that's what works for you. But for me, I want to find someone that is someone that I would like to be like when I grow up. That's who I want to ask questions of. That's who I want to share things with. And so that's what mentoring is to me. I kind of feel like it's like the mentor I used to have in high school.
Okay.
Right? Or the mentor that I had at work.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to help you navigate the stream that you're on with the end goal that you have in mind, not play with you.
Right. And like you said, right, we have often we have mentors in other aspects of our lives. I had a mentor in my corporate world for a little while until we realized that his goal was to help me become a better corporate drone. And my goal was more just get through this 8 hours a day so I can get back to playing.
Video games
Well,
or whatever.
and, but the idea of, so what would you use a mentor for specifically? Why would you, for example,
hmm
want or use, how would you use a mentor?
So I can remember when we first got started 20 some years ago that I was actually looking for a mentor that I did not find. So I was looking for a mentor and I reached out to other leather submissives to see if they could help me find one. I was looking for a mentor that specifically was in a total power exchange relationship that had past baggage that they were working on and had tools to get beyond the past baggage to work on the current relationship. That's what I was looking for. I did not find that. So what I ended up finding was an amazing leather woman that was also a submissive in a total power exchange relationship. She just didn't have the baggage part. So I was able to go to her anytime I had questions, right? It was like, hey, Jess, we're getting ready to do this thing, but people are saying that we're doing it wrong. And she's like, so what does your master say? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Only his opinion matters. And then we went to run for title, and I'm like, hey, Jess, am I supposed to wear makeup? Are we supposed to wear matching outfits? Are we, hey, what does your master say? Oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to follow what master says. So, we would have conversations and stuff, but it's not like we had any other sort. I mean, we had a friendship.
Mhm.
And she was who I would like to be when I grew up. That's what I was looking for. It would have been nice to find someone that also had tools to help with past baggage, but instead she helped keep me on my path by saying, "What does your master think? What does
Yeah,
your
and
master want?"
I certainly believe that you can have, it's valuable to have a mentor, but it's certainly valuable to seek out various people from a guidance perspective, right?
Mhm.
I started off long before getting, well, maybe not long before, but prior to being kinky, I had a variety of mentors with a variety of different titles. And you're right, it's nice when they have a similar background than you, but there's argument whether how important that is, right? What you really want is, I see where you are now. I want to get where you are now.
Mhm.
How do I get there? And
Right.
to have somebody who you can go to, and they're not going to give you, and in general, we don't, a good mentor doesn't necessarily need to give you, here's step 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
but they do, you want them to be able to respond when you say, here's the situation I'm in. What would you recommend?
Or what did you do?
Hmm.
Right? Or can you help me find someone that did this thing so that I can talk to them? Sometimes a mentor is the person with the resources.
Hmm.
So I like that as well. And we've both been mentors before. I couldn't imagine having I'm still back on that. I can't imagine having a relationship with someone that's mentoring me. Just feels like it would muddy the waters, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And now, as you mentioned, I am mentoring somebody right now. It's not like we well, being that I'm a full-time RVer, we don't spend a lot of actual time together. We occasionally share messages via messenger or email, or we talk directly. But overall, I'm not in charge of his life. I don't make the decisions for him. And when on occasion that he says, should I do A or B? I never say do A or B. I say,
Right.
well, what do you think of this? Did you look at that?
Mhm.
Good, go make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the person that I'm mentoring at the moment, basically I'm like, so how's your life going? How's your PE going? Your power exchange? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to beat on and see if you can shake it out to see what's going on. So basically I ask as the submissive, how are you doing? Do you have any challenges? Anything that I can help with or provide experience on or anything like that? And that's basically what it is. And I know people do mentoring differently, right? We had someone in our friendship circle that when someone asked her to mentor, she actually had this whole list of things that she required of the person. They had to read certain books, they had to fill out certain journal entries and stuff like that. And that's a whole different way of doing it as
Hmm.
well. I don't follow that route. I don't need people to completely open up to me for me to be able to mentor them.
Hmm.
So, but I will suggest books. I will suggest some things, but yeah, I'm very, very, very much about the peer-to-peer mentoring.
You are indeed.
I am. Well, I don't know that you've ever mentored a submissive.
No, I don't use that language at all. Right.
Right. So even the young person that came into our life, that's not what they weren't looking to be mentored.
No, well,
They were looking for something else.
there was one person who came in that I was mentoring for a short amount of time, and we realized that just was not working. So I fired them. And they recognized, you know what? I'm actually not a leader type. I'm actually a submissive type.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so there is times where things like that happen, but for a leader type, it could be particularly useful to have a mentor because we sometimes get fooled into thinking we're not supposed to be vulnerable. And being able
Mm.
to be vulnerable with another leader type is really powerful. Now, there's different kinds of mentors as well, and some more directly skill based, right? If you're a rope person, you might have a rope mentor who's teaching you how to do rope or specific things like that. And that's also awesome, right? Not all mentoring is about the head stuff. Sometimes it's like, I just need specific tutelage in a certain area.
Yeah, but if I went to someone, and I'm trying to think, I have gone to people to learn how to do some toppy things.
Mm-hmm.
Toppy is not my arena, and I don't do a lot with it, but I went to someone, but when I was being mentored, when I was being taught, it was being taught in a skill. It wasn't like it was a scene where I submitted to
Sure,
them
absolutely.
and, did this
Oh
thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely, right. I'm not suggesting that mentoring is a top skill. I'm thinking as a top to a top. Now, I might use a
Okay.
bottom. I might, as a matter of fact, I've done this. I've said, I'll show you how to flog. Let me bring Dawn along, and we'll use her back as our canvas.
Absolutely. I
Uh,
absolutely love that.
but no, I'm not suggesting that if I am mentoring. No, as a top to a skill is what I was suggesting.
Absolutely. So, and that is fabulous. And even in the poly world, having mentors, try to find someone that does poly like you do poly.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you're hierarchical poly, you're not going to want to find a relationship anarchist poly person or vice versa.
Not as a mentor,
Not as a
as someone you
mentor.
can learn from, sure, but may not be as useful as a mentor. On the other hand, of course, you do whatever you feel like makes sense to you. There are
Mhm.
no rules about mentoring. This is just us sharing, hey, this is the way we view things.
Exactly. And we said we were going to do that. So that's what we did.
And if you really want to know how we view things, you could ask us in person in a variety of places like Ohio,
Chicago,
Kansas City,
Arizona.
and Minnesota.
That's what we have on the list right now for the rest of the year. Keep up with all of our events. And I'm currently creating the newsletter. So keep up with all of our events, book news, discounts, and more via the Erotic Awakening newsletter.
And get your EA shout out like Julia in Ohio.
And Tom in Arizona.
Head over to eroticawakening.com and subscribe today.
Indeed. And like I said, I'll have July's out probably right around the time we post this podcast.
So, Dawn, there is a new event coming up. It's called Beyond Gender. And I happened to come across this and I reached out to them and they reached back and I said, hey, I just want to tell people about it. It is happening in October 3rd through the 6th at West Palm Beach, Florida. And they're going to have a variety of presenters, an actual prom,
Ooh, a
track.
prom.
Yep, a track for younger people and a dance for younger people, an activity room, all kinds of cool stuff.
Fabulous.
This is their desire to reclaim Florida as a place that the LGBTQIA can still come to, either to vacation or live. Find out more at beyondgenderconference.org.
That sounds like a lot of fun and something that is a bit different. So Fabulous. All right, so we are still working on our new version of the fetish list. And I picked one. You said random, but I've been picking ones that interest me or I thought we could talk about. So this one is bukkake.
And what is that bukkake? What is that?
Bukkake, a type of sexual activity in which several men ejaculate on another person. So I was gonna, when I first put the bukkake on here, I'm like, oh, I can talk about this. I've had experience with this. And then I looked up the definition. I'm like, no, I haven't. I've had a man at a time. I mean, I've had multiple men, just not at the same time,
Right.
ejaculate on me. So that's not officially bukkake according to the definition that
Yes.
I came up with. But I'm gonna tell you what, I mean, I find the idea very, very hot.
So the classic picture in my mind is
Mhm.
a male-bodied or a female-bodied human kneeling, bunch of guys stroking their cocks around them. Maybe they're reaching out with their hands in their mouth to help, and the people come and just splash all over that person.
Yes, that is what I'm thinking of. So now for me, because I'm always thinking about safer sex, I would probably put saran wrap over my face or something like that. But there's a lot of hot scenes I could do with that. The picnic table, sitting on a picnic table, right? Or
Mhm.
no one's going to want to eat lunch on that table after that. But, things like that. And you can also do it to where it is just the neck down,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
Especially if it's strangers. I just wouldn't want it in my face, as hot as that sounds.
Mhm.
But you can do it just on the chest or just on the thighs or just, whatever. You can set up whatever piece of body that you want to and have that done. I bet you there's some events that allow that. Some
Oh,
events
sure.
won't because it's, bodily fluids. But yeah, that's just hot.
Now, I because I'm on FetLife, I see it quite a lot,
Yeah.
and I see a lot of events as well for just this activity. For myself, I don't get it. It does not click for me.
Oh, go ahead. It's just slut play.
I'm just saying for me as a giver
Right.
or a receiver, doesn't click for me.
Doesn't click for you.
Yeah, I get it. I understand the concept, but from a does it do it for me? Nah, I don't get it.
I can kind of get why you don't get it.
Hmm.
So, you just stand around and come on a chick. But you know what? Remember the one standing in the bathtub at Tryst outside at
Yeah,
the leather bar?
yeah.
See, that would have been hot to watch. All the
Hmm.
guys standing around her, standing in the little kiddie pool
Hmm.
and just outdoors, naked men. Just okay. So it gets it for me. Anyway, can you explain this meme to me?
Okay.
There's a meme that goes around that is it's not Princess Leia, it's the other one. And she's got a wall of stormtroopers behind her.
Hmm.
And it says before Bukkake. And then the same exact picture is below that. And it says after Bukkake.
I have seen that meme recently, and nope, I don't get it either.
I keep looking at it going, is it because they're in stormtrooper costumes? So they're Bukkakes like in their costume?
Right. I don't
Or
know. Someone's gonna have
because
to.
everybody's dressed in white, or I don't get that meme, but it does float around every now and then. Yeah. So if anybody knows what the hell that meme means, can you please let me know? Because every time I see it, I think I'm gonna get it, and I just don't. So, bukkake.
And finally, Dawn, if you don't have a mentor, somebody says, I don't have a mentor. They didn't actually say that, but I'm doing a tie-in anyway. They want to learn about the various different kink options through reading fiction. What books would you recommend?
Of course, I recommended the stuff that I used to read, way back then. And then we put this on our Discord channel.
Mhm.
And so that our Discord group could answer it. And the fiction books for me that come up is everything from The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty to Marketplace, the series, to The Story of O. You could read 50 Shades of Grey if you wanted to. I mean, I don't know that it doesn't describe the world, our world, that well.
Mhm.
And things like that. And then there was people on the Discord channel that presented a few other books, and then some that were not so into the claiming of Sleeping Beauty and stuff like that because it's not consensual.
Yeah. See, and I remember some of the scenes from Claiming a Sleeping Beauty or the marketplace, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know that gives you a really good view of what
You
it
know,
looks like.
it doesn't give a good view, but it's fiction. So it doesn't give a good view of what the real world is. Marketplace probably does the better of them. But when I read The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty, I kind of remember I got the whole tentacle thing going on
Mhm.
because it's monsters that just grab you. So some of the scenes in The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty, my memory sucks, but I remember those scenes and they gave me tingles, even though they don't represent, exactly what's going on and what's possible in the real BDSM world. There was stuff in there that made me tingle, and that was when I knew that that's what I found sexually interesting.
Did anybody recommend and I can't remember the name of the series, but Kushili's Dart or something?
I don't know because that doesn't sound familiar to me.
Okay.
I know some people recommended gore and things like that. So, sure, it's fiction. Gore absolutely worked for a whole community of people,
Yeah.
right? There's communities of Gorians. So it definitely worked for me being the captive and taken and
Yes, I got the name right actually. Kushili's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. That was one that people used to recommend to me a lot about. This is a great idea, great book to read if you're into that kind of thing.
nice. There's also literotica.
Yes, absolutely. Millions of stories on Literotica. And what about your millions of stories that you read all the time with your tentacle stuff?
I
Or does
read
it not have a lot of BDSM in it?
No, there's not a lot of BDSM in it. So the alien stuff that I read, there is captive things and, it's alien romance and shapeshifters and stuff like that. I absolutely love all of that stuff. But, it's funny when people say, what fiction books would you recommend? All my stuff is really old because it's the stuff that I read when we first got together. But even of other people that have been asked, no one really has come up with anything current. So I wonder if there's any current books out there. If anybody has any, I would love to add them to my reading list because otherwise I'm going to keep reading monster porn and alien porn.
And speaking of monster porn, only food on boobs. It's not food, but that French fry sex from Minotaurus, that's fucking hilarious.
I have looked on your screen a couple of times while you're scrolling past that, and I'm like, oh, that's hot. Oh, that's French fries. What the hell? So that's kind of cool. And well, someone gave you little army dudes coming up through a woman's slit.
I haven't seen those yet. Darn
Oh,
it.
okay. So you need to go back and scroll through those. That one's kind of hot. And then Enigma has been putting on the Discord channel more tentacle sex pictures, and then Trevere with the picnic table
Yeah,
sex.
that's
So
picnic tables. That's pretty great.
that's just awesome. We've got picnic tables here, but the RVs are so close that I don't think that's a possibility.
That would be an orgy.
That would be an orgy. So
At a minimum, a bunch of voyeurs.
So let's chit chat about that just a second before we wrap up. We are currently, this is July of 2024.
Mhm.
We have just arrived about 40 minutes outside of Chicago.
Yep.
And we're going to be here for a couple of months before we're back on the road, heading for Kansas City and then Phoenix for the winter. So if you are in this area, reach out to us.
Absolutely. We are in the Chicago area. Let's get together, have a coffee or something.
Absolutely. Yay.
Be a part of the Erotic Awakening Podcast community.
You can support us on Patreon and get early access to the podcast, a free version of the audiobook polyamory toolkit, free ebooks, member-only Discord access, discounts to the online classes that I'm putting together, and more.
Find all the goodies at patreon.com/erotic awakening today.
Help others find us. Take a moment to support the podcast. Rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
Or just tell your friends.
Join the conversation with us and other listeners. Use the links from the Erotic Awakening website for our growing Discord channel.
And feel free to reach out to us.
Contact us with questions, podcast comments, or just to
Dan and Dawn on FetLife,
and Erotic Awakening on Instagram.
or just email us at dananddawn@eroticawakening.com.
Bye, Dan.
Bye, Dawn.